Welcome to Author Promoting Show, and I'm your host, Pantea Kalhor. Reading and writing is going to be a passion for many people, and some people put this passion in their career. There are technical writers, there are um, writers in magazines, they write their book. So these are lots of people who really wish to understand about these adventure. I think writing is adventure itself. Today we have Susan Jagannath, and she is the best-selling author for 3 times. She is real adventurous, and she's interested in hiking, and she has 3 books about hiking. I'm going to welcome her to our podcast and want her to talk about her adventure and why she started writing books. Welcome to our show, Susan.
Thanks, Pantea. Great to be here. And yeah, you're right. Writing is the greatest adventure of all, because when you write a book that touches another person, you can really change someone's life. And I think that's the greatest adventure, and also the greatest privilege which we have as authors, is that we can, sit at our desks and write words that change lives. And when you can mix it up with hiking or your passions, you have a recipe for success. So I love to hike and have adventures, and I love to share those passions with people. So that's a recipe for me.
Writer, right? Technical writer for 15 years.
And yeah, I'm still a technical writer.
Oh, you are?
I'm trying to get out of that, but people don't let me escape because I don't apply for jobs. They come to me. So I still occasionally do technical writing, but I only take contracts because I want to, and now because of the pandemic, I take the contract because obviously I can't hike. So yeah.
And but writing is a good career because you always can do it at home. You don't need to do it in office. So that's good. That's good.
It's beautiful.
Yeah. I actually read your bio about your childhood. You were a traveler all the time, right? From moving from one city to another one, and school,
Yeah, all the time.
Yeah, tell me about it. Tell me about your story.
Okay. My dad was in the army. So obviously we moved, I think I've been in 22 different places by the time I was 22.
Wow.
So we moved we moved every either 2 years or sometimes 6 months. And I don't know, in those days, people were not, this thing of, children having to have the same school and having to be, have a secure life and all that. Nobody thought about that. Our security was our family, and we just packed up and went. And I do remember missing my friends a little bit, but I made friends again, and we had the most marvelous time because, India is not really a country. It's almost like a continent. Every place is different. You have different languages, different food, different sights to see. So, every move was a huge adventure for us. I don't know if it was such an adventure for my mother, because later on when I got married and I had to move house on my own, I was thinking,
moving is a hard part, really.
Yeah, but it was harder. The moving was okay, but the packing. And
I know, packing, unpacking.
And somehow, I don't know what it is. One would imagine that we would learn to live with very little. But in each place you went, we collected more stuff because, say, we'd go to South India and we'd say, oh my God, there's such beautiful statues here of this area, and we'd buy 1 or 2. And then from there you go to Kashmir, and in Kashmir you say, I can't leave Kashmir without the carpets. So you just collect all this stuff. And it doesn't help that in the army, when my dad was in the army, they would give you a full train carriage. It was called a EVK, so a goods carriage. You got a full one. And literally, we would just drive the car in there and stack all our boxes in there. And away we went. So we never had a problem of space when we were moving. And I think that was terrible because you could just collect heaps of junk.
Yeah. But I see something interesting in your book when I read it. Uh,
Yeah.
you actually carry all your experience in traveling with your parents inside your book, because you have lots of good guidance how to pack up for hiking whenever you want to
Yeah.
go to very long distance hiking, especially in this trekking the Valley of Flower in
Yeah.
last book. I love reading that book.
Oh,
It's
thank you.
kind of,
I'm glad.
I said, oh, I'm gonna go to this adventure, but you actually write about it in a very detailed way that people can
Yes.
go and refer. Even they would know what to bring with themselves, how many hours they can go, and which trek they have to take. So tell me about your book, the last book you wrote.
Well, the value of flowers, it was, again, most of my books are dream books. One would imagine I've traveled enough, but of course, you can never travel enough. So there are some locations which we had never seen. And this particular one, Valley of Flowers, it was actually not open in my childhood. It was closed for many, many years. And they only opened it in about the 90s. And by the 90s, we would talk about it, but we are a group of 4 friends. All my friends, we were in IT, and that was a time when Bangalore was just becoming the IT capital of the world. So we were like the pioneers. We were the first people who were converting Bangalore into an IT capital. We were all in IT, and we were so busy that when we had holidays, uh, not for me because I was a bit older, but my friends, their holidays were maternity leave where they had their babies. Or our holidays were, for me, it was taking my children up to see my family or my husband's family. So we had that concept in India. It was very traditional at that time that you didn't, especially if you were a married woman, you didn't spend your holidays on yourself. You spent it on your children, or you spent it for your in-laws or your family. And finally, now after, I think took us 20 years or 25 years, we just said, enough. All our children are grown up. They don't need us. And let's go and do this trip. And it really, because we had been talking on Zoom and on WhatsApp, it didn't matter that we were in different countries. So at one stage last year, we just said, really, we just keep talking. And they were actually talking about my other books because I had just written another Himalayan book. We were talking about it, and they said, Susan, why don't we all go together to the Valley of Flowers, which we've been
Wow.
wanting to do for 25 years. And all of us, like, we've gone near it, but we haven't gone there. So the whole thing was planned in 2 weeks. And it was, we just took off. And because I've hiked before, I knew exactly what to take. And a lot of it is because the Valley of Flowers is the Indian Himalayas. So we are not, the Indian Himalayas are actually very easy to hike in because there's so much you can find people there to help you for anything. And it is well set up. So we just went for it. And we all flew in to Dehradun, which is the jumping off point. And we all met over there. And then we took it slow deliberately, because I have altitude, I get altitude sickness. I can't breathe very well, but so you have to ascend slowly. So we had a great time ascending slowly, and we also had a great time meeting and chatting and laughing. It was a girls' adventure. It was fantastic because even though we do see each other once in every 2 or 3 years, we had never spent a lot of time together, and for so long. And it was just fantastic catching up. And what was fantastic was that we didn't talk about work.
Yeah.
We didn't talk about families. We just talked about the things which we were passionate about. And there's some things which you can only talk with your girlfriends. And it was really beautiful.
I love it. Yeah, it's good
Yeah.
when you finally said enough, I'm gonna just go and follow my passion. So,
Yeah. It's
Susan, what is good about being an author? What was your feeling when you saw your book published for the first time?
oh, I think it's a bit of an addiction, Pantea. It's, uh, you get a real rush of joy. I think it's sheer joy and accomplishment. You feel that, okay, here I've created something which is really, it's going to live forever. Like, we can talk about it. We can put tweets about it. We can put Facebook about it, but we know how Facebook and tweets, they just scroll and they vanish. But a book, it kind of stays there forever, and it's always findable. It's, I know that sort of, when I'm dead and gone, that book is going to be there, and I'm going to leave some kind of legacy for my children and my grandchildren. And it's something permanent. Like, I read books which are written by, or say, Jane Austen or J.R.R. Tolkien. I read these books which were written hundreds of years ago. And, you read Jane Austen and you think, this is a English woman living in a small village. She never traveled more than 100 miles from anywhere, from her home. And yet, we have the same experiences. It's, when I read her books, I can think, really? It's not just me who has these feelings. And I think reading is something, and writing books is something which unites us in our common humanity. It doesn't matter what your religion is, it doesn't matter what your culture is, sort of, it doesn't even matter your language. When you read the book, you get inside the mind of a whole culture, a person, and there's nothing better than having your mind blown open and all your prejudices blown away.
And nothing is better than reading a book with a hot cup of coffee or
Oh,
tea and just
yeah.
sit and enjoy reading. And that's the best part of it. And to my experience, maybe because we are not from the computer generation. From the beginning, we didn't have computer, and
Yeah.
we really used to read print book.
Yes,
Printed.
yes.
That's what I really enjoy right now. Even because I don't like to read Kindle books like in rush. Having a printed book and then just flip the pages, it feels good, feels home, feels relaxation, Yes.
That's because when we read a print book, we're really connecting everything. We're connecting the eyes, the brain, and the touch and the movement, which we don't get from a Kindle book. But you know what I do? I buy a lot of Kindle books because I'm too impatient to go to the shop and buy the book because I want to read it. So very often, particularly if I read a business book or if I read a non-fiction book, I always have, if you can see this, I have post-its of various sizes next to me. And what I do is I take notes in my post-it, so that what happens then, uh, I really learn what is written in the book. Otherwise, if I read a business book, or if you're reading a book to learn something and you just look at it on the Kindle, sometimes it just goes, as you said. But yeah, so when I read a book, I always have a bunch of this is my little bunch of post-its which I keep next to me in different sizes.
Always
And
writing. Even, yeah, me too.
yeah,
When I read the book, I always write. And even,
yeah,
when I was a baby, not the baby, come on. When I was, when I knew that I can write, like
mm,
7-year-old, 8-year-old, I started writing poems,
fantastic.
writing,
Yeah.
essays. The passion of writing, I guess it's in you from the
Mm,
beginning. even if you have another job or career to follow, but still you have this passion and you knew one day you're going to publish your book.
Yeah, I was a great reader as well when I was little. There was, as you said, there was nothing else to do there was no, literally, you won't believe it, but we got TV in our house when I was 20 years old. Before that, there was no TV in India in the places where we lived in the army. So I thought, and the programs were so boring, I wasn't bothered about it. So the only thing to do on those long journeys, those long train journeys, or the long afternoons when you had nothing to do, was to read. I would read crazily. And another thing I want to say about growing up in India, we kind of, because we were bilingual, we got a double whammy of treasures from both different cultures. And it's even now sometimes, there's some great Indian authors like, say, Salman Rushdie and others. And I just wonder how people who don't know Hindi or Urdu, how they can understand the book, because they write in layers. There are so many layers there which only someone who's bilingual can understand, that what he's really saying. Sometimes I'll read the books and I'll read these books by Indian authors, and some of them I'll just say, oh, I so get what they're saying. They're saying it in two different ways. And I
But
think that
your book is very understandable to me. Was very,
yes, people understand it, but
yeah,
what,
multilingual.
but people from India who read the book, they get a whole different experience, and they get a whole different experience. And that's what's so wonderful, that you can write a book in, I'm writing in English, and I don't write in any other language, like, because I've been educated only in English. I cannot, I can read Hindi or Hindustani, what you say, I can read Devanagari script, but I don't really I cannot write in it. My writing in it will be shocking. But you still get, and that was one wonderful thing about the Valley of Flowers, is that in that whole experience of actually trekking the Valley of Flowers, we must have spoken about 70% Hindi. We spoke 70% Hindi and 30% English. And yet I was able to convert that into an English book, which a lot of people everywhere can understand. And if you are bilingual, you'll get more of the stories. And I deliberately try to do that by adding I just add the words which I would really use. So if when you read the book, there are a lot of Hindi words in it, and I give a glossary at the back and I sort of explain it, but I don't kind of belabor the point of explaining the word, I think. And lots of people, they read the book and they don't even realize that they've read a lot of Hindi words, and then they look at the glossary to see, and they say, oh, Susan, it's so amazing. I know now exactly what a roti is. I think it's kind of obvious. But that's what was really interesting. Going back to childhood, having a bilingual childhood, I think it sets you up as an author in any language, because certainly in my childhood we studied mostly in English, but we also studied Hindi. And I know that when you can read another language, you get a whole different mindset.
Exactly,
So
it's different.
yeah.
Exactly, because
And it's
it's tied up with your childhood, with your culture. Exactly like me, I'm a Persian as well, so I
yeah.
have my
Oh,
conception of a poem, like a
yeah.
Persian poem, is totally different from somebody. Even if you translate it to another language, they don't understand the deep depth meaning of it. I
Yeah,
totally
exactly.
understand. I totally follow you. I know what you mean.
Yeah, and I can see in my writing sometimes when I read it back, because I always read the line back. I read it back and I think I'm always amazed that it goes bestseller, because but it may be just for someone who's Indian. When I read it back, I think I can hear the Indian cadences in it. I can hear the way I write. It's a lot like, I call it Hindi now because that's what we've grown up. But we know that what we're really speaking is Hindustani, which came from Urdu, which was actually a mixture of Bhojpuri and Persian and Turkish and all those
I
languages.
understand some part of it as well.
Yeah. A lot of those was like, you say sabji, subs, and you know immediately that it's a...
Susan, you're living in Australia. I've been there in Australia and lived there for 3 years. And I see a lot of Indians living in Australia. So, Indian culture, Indian food is not very strange to Western countries, especially Australia, multicultural countries, US, Canada, and many people here love your food and your culture. So it's not as strange because lots of Indians live in Canada and Australia and anywhere of the world. So what is the best advice you can give to authors, future authors who wants to start publishing their book and start writing their book?
I think we're at a time now where people say that this time is a difficult time, it's been a terrible time. But you know what? I think in the future, people are going to look back and they're going to want to know what people felt. And I think that if we've lived through this entire period, and firstly, we are lucky. We haven't got sick. We're fine. But people are going to want to know the stories. And I think this is a wonderful time for anyone to write their story now. If you're stuck at home and you can't travel and you can't go to the beach, stay at home and write. And there's so much of technology now. You really don't even have to know how to write. You can install an app on your phone and you can dictate the whole phone and then the whole story, and you can give it away for transcription. So there is no excuse for writer's block now. Writer's block is an imaginary thing. There is nobody's got talker's block. We are talking. I can't understand. I cannot think of one person who has talker's block. You ask them to talk. So you can talk your book.
Speech recognition. I use it a lot because sometimes I have a lot in my mind. I cannot write it, and then it's easier and faster to just talk, even if you have accent, which all of us does. All of us do. So what happened? You can correct them later, but if you just try to pronounce it fluently, then you don't have too much errors. After sometimes, even the computer has a kind of learning technique, and they can understand your accent after some time. So I love it. I love this speech recognition. So that's a good advice.
You can write your book in one weekend, literally. And when I say write, you can dictate your book in one weekend. And there's no excuse for not writing your book. And quite often people, because, Pantea, I also help people to write their books. I help people to publish. A lot of people come to me and say, oh, I don't have anything to write. And I think,
why do you want to be a writer?
You don't have anything to write. Don't tell me that nonsense. And, you can just sit down with someone and say, are you a mother? Or, have you finished uni? Have you gone away? Have you ever had a hobby? Have you ever journeyed? Those are all things which you can write. If your problems when you were, when you were a mom, when you tried to homeschool your kids, that's a book. If you've ever had a journey and you've had a bad journey, that's a book. You had a good journey, that's a book. You've picked up a new hobby. Say you were stuck at home and you started to bake, right? And now that's a book, or two books, or three books. So anyone can, and you can write the book.
Everybody's life is unique. You have your unique experiences. You have, let's say you immigrate from one country to another country. This is the whole different story. And everybody has his own story to tell, and
Yes,
to
absolutely.
start
Yeah.
another like career as you did.
Mm.
You are IT, I'm IT as well. I was software developer.
Oh.
Yeah. And then I had lots of transition project management for a long time. And then
Yeah.
now I'm doing something else. But that's what we do. That's life. And this is adventure. And you have to write about it. And we don't
Absolutely.
have too much time to live. That's my philosophy, because life is so short. And I knew one of my friend lost her sister to cancer.
Mm. Oh.
Her sister was very talented, and she said we talked about writing a book for years, but we never wrote it. So I said, you because in your life you always think, oh, I have time to write one
Yeah, you
day when I
don't.
get
Mm.
older. No, there is no guarantee for your life. Life has endings. And you have to
Yes.
get best out of it. And you have lots of experience which is unique. As I see, your experience trekking the valley of flowers is very unique experience. I've
Mm.
never told I've never heard about it. When I read the book, I said, oh, there is somewhere in Himalaya you can go and you can
Yeah.
enjoy seeing the beautiful flowers. You have like collection of beautiful flowers, and this is really worth to go and see and visit. So you see,
Mm.
there is no another time. That's what we have left, and we have,
Especially, you should understand, like we've got this pandemic, and really,
yeah.
who knows? Like today, we are safe, and you don't. Like in Australia, we thought we had kicked it, and it just exploded in Victoria. And a few days ago, it exploded in Queensland. A very small explosion, but what's frightening about it is they don't know how it came.
I didn't know you had this.
Yeah, in
You
Queensland,
had a flood, you said?
we had some COVID cases
Oh,
in,
COVID cases. Okay.
yeah, suddenly, and of course they shut down everything, and now they've opened again. But they've kind of said they've contained it to about 15 people, but still, what is frightening, they don't know how that person got it. That person is a 77-year-old woman who's still working, and she doesn't go night clubbing, she doesn't do anything, she just goes from work to home. And we don't know, they cannot trace the connection of how she got it.
And you don't
And
know how many people already got this.
exactly, that is what's frightening. So don't touch people, don't hug people, don't meet strangers, but you can
Right.
write a book and do all those things.
I
You can
love
touch
it.
someone, can hug
Exactly.
them, you can make new friends without getting a virus by writing a book.
I like that. You know what? I think writing is one of those profession that you never get tired of it, because inherently you have it, and you really um, can talk with your heart, by your heart, when you write. Because whenever I was tired, whenever I was sad, happy, or
Mm,
whatever emotion I had, I always wrote it somewhere. Because by referring to those, I just remind myself what I was doing that day. So I always
mm,
have this here. See, I always have this. So
yeah.
from childhood, I used to write. And this is a good reminder for myself. And one day you see, I'm gonna actually write something for my daughter. Someday she can refer to it and then, oh, my mom did this at this time. And yeah, writing is passion, and we always recommend everybody who want to be a writer, do it now, especially in COVID,
Mm,
because this is the best way to write. And don't think that you don't have anything to write. You have it. You have lots of experiences, and it's good to be on the paper rather than just be here in your heart, because it can carry over and over in different generation with your
Yeah, totally.
yeah,
Mm.
with your grandparents, with your kids, and this is beautiful. That's the beautiful concept of writing a book.
I keep telling my husband to do that because he's a great storyteller for kids, right? And but he says, I can't remember the stories. And the thing is, I said, you should try and remember, just tell it to someone. Because the other day, my granddaughter was here. Normally, I was putting her to bed because, yeah, I don't know, it was me who was putting her to bed. And I was actually looking forward to, having bedtime, reading her a story. And she said, no, I want Daddy Da. Daddy, she calls my husband,
Oh,
grandfather,
that's so
Daddy.
sweet.
She said, I want Daddy Da. I said, why is that, darling? Daddy Da's a bit expensive, a bit busy. I'm here with you. I'll tell you the story. She said, no, I want Smart Leopard's story. So he has these long stories about a smart leopard. And
Okay.
what tell these children about? So he says, I don't know, I just keep talking about the smart leopard, and normally it's what they've done in the day. And they just love it. All my children, they always loved. So the smart leopard is a member of our family who has all these adventures. And sometimes when you hear the story, you think, nothing happens in that story. But the children love it. So here's one task for me, is to one day force my husband to sit down and write down his smart leopard stories, because I said, our children won't be able to tell them again. And
Okay, that's so
even
sweet.
and my son is 40 and my daughter is 38, the elder ones. And they were, when Bella was telling them, oh, she was, do you know about smart leopard? And these children, they were rolling their eyes and saying, you've started her on smart leopard. Now this is an addiction which will continue your whole childhood. We will have to tell them stories about smart leopard.
Yeah, that's the way the story goes from one generation to another one.
Yeah, and
Beautiful.
even
I
people
love
who
it.
think they can't write, they are, maybe my husband will never write a story. He'll never write a business book because, yeah, he's an ex-Air Force officer, and the amount of stories he's got is reality. But I said, you can, I'm not very good at fiction. I'm struggling with my fiction book, but he just tells these stories. He just sits down and he just
He
makes
has
these
a good
stories up out of thin
imagination.
air.
Yeah.
Yeah, unbelievable.
I love
I
that.
said, you should write your book, because if you write a smart leopard book, you can write like 20 stories and you will be a best-selling author like that.
Yeah, yeah. Susan, I
So,
really enjoyed talking to you. Our time is up, and I'm 100% sure my audience really enjoyed it as well. This is my honor to have you in this show, 3 times bestseller author, and I can't wait to see you write more books and hop on in new adventure. So, uh, just for last thing to say, do you have anything to add, any promotion for your new book or any freebies, any program?
well, I do have a freebie, which is a very valuable checklist, and it's called the 10 free tools for aspiring best-selling authors. So
Hmm.
it's on my Facebook. If you join my Facebook, you can get it by just sending me a comment. But what I do is I do help people to write their own book. So if you're even thinking about writing your book, you need a book coach, I'm there to help you. So,
Oh,
come
perfect.
contact me, and yeah, we'll work together and get you a best-selling book, because get you to write it, and then you can go ahead and decide if you want to publish it. But
There you go.
it's
Great.
really, I feel that if I can write one book, it's great. But if I can get 10 people to write 10 books, that gives me great joy as well. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, here you go. You have Susan to help you to write your book to bestseller. And that's
Yep.
amazing to have a coach beside you, and you don't need to just look for something else. Just here you have her, and with lots of experience in 3 times bestseller author. Thank you so
Yeah,
much,
again.
Susan.
Thanks, Pantea. Lovely to talk to you, and all the best for your book, because your book is bestseller as well, I think.
Yes,
The latest
actually,
one.
I wrote one book, Rules of Change for the Better, as a bestseller. I had a co-author with another book. And then I have my own book coming, which called Naturally Conceived, for people who are going to be pregnant and struggling with fertility issues. Thank you for mentioning about my
Yeah,
book.
that's something which really helps people.
Yeah,
And yeah,
yeah.
I love your books. I've read your other books. I
Yeah,
just love
thank you
them.
so much, Susan. Thank you so much. Bye.
Thanks, Pantea. Talk later. Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.
Please subscribe to my YouTube channel and get notification for new interviews, and pre-order my book Naturally Conceived through Amazon. Get pregnant by unleashing your reproduction power.